Yeah, it was alright. Oh, who am I kidding? It was awesome! Yes! Oh, fantastic. Oh, that is an episode. That is absolutely what I'm talking about. Yeah, the first episode was just like, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter and everything, but that was an episode. Properly addressing the whole Dipper Wendy thing, taking Wendy on the adventure. I don't think they did that at all in the first season. That is awesome as well, because I was so annoyed during the first season that Wendy really wasn't anything but Dipper's romantic interest. They didn't really do anything else with her. So bring her along on the mission and everything, and her being pretty useful. Probably the most useful person on that adventure. That was amazing, really, because Wendy isn't a damsel in distress or anything. They haven't even really sort of designed her to look like just this sort of trophy girl that Dipper has to sort of try and rescue just as a prize or something. They haven't made her look glamorous at all. She does look just like a normal kind of teenager, and she's a bit of a tomboy. So at the same time, so absolutely love the idea of her being a more sort of realistic kind of sort of love interest for Dipper, and also sort of acknowledging the fact that this crush is just kind of a silly sort of thing. It's never really going to just sort of happen, and they cover that a lot in the first season, but here they give some sort of a closure to it, in the sense that Dipper finally confesses to Wendy, and she's just honest with him. She's like, yeah, it's not going to happen, but at the same time Dipper still has his crush, so it's not completely closed or anything. He's not over her or anything. It's still sort of there, so I'll be interested to see where they go with that now. But yeah, just a lot of great development of Wendy, taking her in a new kind of direction and everything. I actually really like the bit at the start of the episode when Dipper is going to try and confess his love for Wendy, and she's not sort of looking at him in a sort of aura kind of way, where he can't resist that face or anything. She's looking kind of gormless. So that's kind of sort of, again, more kind of realistic. She's not glamorous or anything. She's not this great prize Dipper can't resist or something. She's just kind of normal. So, absolutely love that. We haven't really had a huge amount of, Mabel stuff so far this season. She's just done a few things here and there, but I do like Skepticals. That really kind of made me laugh. And I actually thought, right when they went into that room, with all the blocks closing in on them, I thought this would be just like an ideal moment for Mabel to just say something kind of, sort of, not kind of aware of the perilous of the situation, just say something very sort of positive. And that's exactly what she does. It's hard to be scared with caterpillars on your face. That's great, yeah. Great, just sort of Mabel being positive about the kind of situation and everything. There were a few things that, to me, don't sort of quite add up. The shape-shifting monster, another kind of interesting kind of monster. Actually, the part where it shape-shifts into that sort of spider that's like Dipper and Mabel kind of thing, that actually really kind of scared me. But there's a few things about it that don't quite add up. What does the monster want with the journal exactly? What's its motivation? What's it doing here? So, even though it's frozen at the end of the episode, there, I'm guessing we're going to see that again, and we're going to sort of find out a bit more about it. I don't really understand why, when Wendy and Dipper are locked into that room and Mabel's going to try and get Dipper to confess, why doesn't Wendy say to Mabel out there, he's right, there is actually a monster in here, he's being serious, he's not just trying to use that as an excuse to get you to open the door, there actually isn't a monster here. No, she doesn't say anything for some reason. What else was there? There was something else. Oh, obviously there's that moment where Dipper actually does confess his love for Wendy. Annoyed me a little bit I think that's a little bit of a cliche, thinking that the person is, well, not dead. I mean, they're not going to kill off a main character. I mean, it's a kid show after all. But, she's really badly hurt. I think that's actually what Dipper says, you could be hurt. I always think that's kind of a cliche, though. You think, like, confessing your love to someone when you think they can't hear you, basically. That's a bit of a cliche. But I also don't quite understand why the monster would just lie there unconscious all that time, other than, just to serve, the sort of forced nature of the scene. But, at the same time, I'm glad that Dipper finally did that, because, that was driving me nuts during the whole of the first season. They bring back Robbie. He's, they kind of bring him back. They mention him and everything, but whether or not that actually means we're going to see him again, who knows. I probably would not want to see him again. I think, that there was a decent amount of closure to that bit at the end of towards the end of the first season. So, no, I wouldn't want to see him again, I don't think. Ugh. Very little Stan here. Again, nice little bit of continuity, sort of acknowledging the fact that these episodes are quite obviously taking place in the order that they're being aired. This does take place right after the events of the previous episode, so they just have Stan, again, he's just trying to cover things up. But, no, they don't bring Stan along for the adventure. That's kind of interesting, again, there are a lot of adventures in the first season where it was just Dipper, Mabel, and Soos that went along, so in a sense, I guess that kind of makes sense. They're just adding Wendy to the group. But it's interesting, they add Wendy to the group, they take away Stan. I don't know if maybe they thought that 5 people was going to be too much to sort of carry the episode, perhaps. It would be too much to sort of juggle, especially with the monster as well. I do like the monster, by the way. Again, I'm hopeful that we're going to see that monster again, actually, because that was really cool. Kind of monster with a bit of a personality, a bit of a villainous kind of threat and everything. That's kind of interesting, it makes a much more interesting kind of antagonist than, Gideon, who's just, kind of a jerk. Not so many good Soos lines, I didn't think. There's that one line he has at the end, where I think Mabel mentions maple syrup on cereal, and Soos sort of, he's in quite awe of her, the way he says it. He says, "Mabel, you're a visionary." he's like really awestruck by that. That's quite good. But no, other than that, not so many good Soos lines. I'm not sure if Mabel's being a good sister here or not, really, with the way she tries to deal with this whole Dipper confessing his love for Wendy. Because obviously it is, something she understands that Dipper needs to do, and he needs to get over it. He needs to get over with. He needs to get it over with. Get it out there eventually. And just stop having that hanging over him. And she's right. He'll feel better after he does it. One way or the other, whether or not Wendy embraces it or not. But I don't know if that was the best time to force Dipper into doing it. When they were in the middle of an adventure kind of thing. And forcing him to do it at that particular moment. So yeah, that left a few questions in my mind about whether or not Mabel did the right thing there. More sort of interactive stuff with Mabel's sweaters. I get the feeling that's going to be a recurring theme throughout the season. Mabel's pictures on Mabel's sweaters are going to be relevant to something that they can do. It wasn't hugely relevant to the story or anything. It was just a quick sort of gag, and I do like Susie's line. It's kind of a fire hazard. Obviously that this may be a theme throughout the season. Who knows? That they are going to foreshadow into the next episode with something that happens at the very end with Soos discovering that laptop, and Dipper basically just flat out says it. That's going to be our next clue. Because at the end of the previous episode we had that page in the journal that then I basically predicted was going to become relevant later, and actually becomes relevant in the very next episode. So yeah, I'm guessing we're going to see things at the end of each of the episodes that are going to become relevant to the next one. So the next one presumably is going to be about that laptop. But yeah, a couple of interesting developments here, with kind of closure to the whole Dipper Wendy thing, but Dipper's not over her, so that's still sort of hanging in there. And yeah, it is sort of kind of a difficult kind of dilemma. It's not actually something I've ever had to deal with, but it is kind of sort of difficult thing to judge when you have a crush on someone, and they don't feel the same way as you, they don't feel the same way about you, but at the same time they want to be friends, and you're good friends and everything, and that has to be sort of worth something in some way, So I'll be interested to see where they go with that, because obviously Dipper does still have a crush on Wendy. He just sort of kind of knows now that there's no realistic hope of anything happening between the two of them, but he can still sort of take some kind of satisfaction from the fact that they are good friends now. I keep sort of going and thinking what else I want to talk about, because there's so much going on in this episode. Because I really like this episode. I liked it a lot more than the first one, really. And the first one was still good, but this was a lot better, I thought. Interesting kind of Indiana Jones style of puzzle with those blocks sort of closing in. Almost sort of Indiana Jones-esque of him reaching back for his hat with the way that Dipper loses his vest as they escape. And I'm not sure if that little speech from the monster at the end is going to mean anything or anything. It's obviously just sort of alluding to the fact that, I imagine that monster is going to be a recurring villain throughout the season or something. He's going to come back and he's going to be important later. No real development with this room behind the vending machine of Stan's, because Stan is barely in this episode anyway. And obviously this is just going to be about the author throughout this whole season, find out who the author of the journal is. And actually something else I noticed rewatching the first episode of this season actually is that Stan puts on a rubber glove with 6 fingers, and the hand on the journal has 6 fingers, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. I didn't notice any little sort of foreshadowings to bits later in the episode, or little pages of the journal here and there that might become important later or anything like that, so I didn't spot anything like that. Obviously there's the numbers again at the end of the episode. I don't pay a huge amount of attention to them. But no, this was just a damn good bit of kind of closure to the whole Dipper Wendy thing. Excellent bit of character development for Wendy. I really like that they've taken her in more of a kind of member of the team kind of direction now, rather than just being Dipper's love factor. And I still want to see some more good Mabel stuff. We haven't really had a good there's just been 1 or 2 good lines from Mabel so far, but nothing really sort of concrete. We haven't really had a Mabel episode yet. I hope the next one's about Mabel more. But yeah, really good episode, really good development of Wendy, and I will be interested to see where they go now with the whole Dipper and Wendy thing, and where they go with this whole finding out about the author, really. That's going to be very interesting. But yeah, great episode. Okay, see you soon, guys.